Hey, what's happening, guys? What's going on? You guys have tuned into Rules for Rebels. Today is Thursday, March 30th, 2023. We got another rundown video for you guys. Today, going to be talking about some business stories. We've had more layoffs announced in the past 24, 48 hours. So we're going to be talking about Electronic Arts, Roku, Lucid, Microsoft, and a number of other big-name companies doing layoffs. We talked about how the markets and crypto markets finished up yesterday. Kind of a funny story. Afroman is being sued by 7 Adams County Sheriff's officers out of Ohio. He has a funny music video where he actually used footage from a raid on his house. We'll talk a little bit about that story. I got something to talk about with Shopify. Shopify is shutting down people's stores and taking down certain products off people's stores. It would make me very, very wary to continue using Shopify in the future, but it kind of sucks because it's almost a must that you use Shopify in this day and age. Shopify is tied into Klaviyo, all the SMS marketing programs, all the social media channels. You know, if you want to advertise on TikTok or have a sales channel on Twitter or Pinterest, Shopify is really the only one who's set up with a lot of these companies. So it's a must. You must use Shopify, but at the same time, you're putting your business at risk using Shopify. We'll get into that in a little bit more detail. Wall Street Journal had an article. People are complaining about air travel way more than usual. Delayed flights haven't been this bad since 2001. And I actually have kind of a personal story. I was actually planning on heading down to Destin, Florida in about a month. And unfortunately, there are no nonstop flights from Chicago. Typically I hate flying anything but nonstop. I just don't like dealing with transfers, and I always worry about a flight being delayed, and then it messes up the entire travel. But in past years, I may have done that. With what a nightmare air travel is these days, I'm just not willing to even deal with layovers because I don't trust that my flight's going to take off on time and arrive in time. And on my recent trip down to Miami, my flight wound up being delayed. It caused huge issues. I was supposed to get in early in the morning, didn't wind up getting in until the evening, and it kind of ruined my plan of getting in early and having kind of a leisurely drive and taking a road trip down to Key West with some stops along the way. We got Arizona's governor's press secretary resigns after posting something really kind of inappropriate, kind of more than inappropriate, hateful, on Twitter following the school shooting in Nashville. Had kind of an observation I made about these penny mailer flyers that come in the mail and kind of what it says about the economy, and a number of other things we're going to be talking about in today's video. Before we get into today's video, I wanted to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Refersion. You can check them out at refersion.com. Also, link will be in the description box below. If you have an e-commerce website or some type of business, why not get an army of affiliates working for you? That's what Refersion allows you to do. Refersion is an affiliate management platform, so you can recruit affiliates who can sign up through Refersion. They have a nice application where people can tell you their info, how they plan to promote you. You can approve or disapprove those affiliates. Your affiliates will be able to create unique links that can be tracked back to them, to specific product pages on your website to promote those products. And then at the end of the month, it tracks all the sales. And at the end of the month, you can pay everybody out. Even if you have hundreds or even thousands of affiliates, you can pay everybody out with just 1 or 2 clicks. Influencer marketing is getting tougher and tougher to make money. There's not great ways to kind of track how effective influencers are for you. So why not get your influencers on an affiliate model? Also, if you are an affiliate marketer yourself, Refersion, one of the things I like about Refersion, you have one login to access all of your affiliate programs in terms of all of the programs that use Refersion. And they also have an affiliate network. So if you sign up for a Refersion account and you want to go browse different affiliate programs, kind of like a commissionjunction.com, cj.com, you can do that as well. So whether you are an affiliate or looking to set up an affiliate program, check out the link in the description box below for Refersion. Let's talk about the markets yesterday. So the Dow closed up 323 points. The NASDAQ closed up 2.17%. The S&P 500 closed up 1.42%. And crypto kind of finished up mixed. But looks like this morning crypto is back up. I was kind of looking at the numbers yesterday, but Bitcoin up over 28,000, Ethereum up over 1,800, and Binance, or the BNB coin, is slowly recovering. It's recently come out that Sam Bankman-Fried, I got a couple other things just off the top of my head that aren't in notes, but kind of crypto related. Turns out Sam Bankman-Fried gifted a bunch of money from Alameda to his father, and that money is being used to pay for his legal defense fund. I saw Matt Damon came out and said that the reason he did the Crypto.com video is because his water charity had a bad year and he was looking to raise money. There are a couple other interesting crypto stories I had heard, but they're kind of slipping my mind at the moment. One thing that's kind of interesting, put on your tinfoil hats, I suppose. But isn't it interesting that there's kind of a coordinated attack going on with crypto? The SEC had issued a warning to Americans and investors saying crypto's risky and you shouldn't invest in it. Pretty much all of the banks shut down by the FDIC were either crypto banks or lent money to crypto companies. And isn't it funny how the U.S. government is going after crypto? Crypto, in theory, could be competition for the U.S. banking system. Isn't it funny that at a time when the U.S. banking system is coming apart, people may wind up losing deposits, the banking system looks unstable, crypto potentially could be a safe haven, and at the very same time that the banking system is collapsing, that the government decides to go after crypto. I think the timing of that is kind of interesting. Let's talk a little bit about layoffs. So Electronic Arts is laying off 800 employees. That's 6% of their workforce. They'll also be cutting back on office space, which likely means they're either going to be doing more remote work, or it means that they're just not planning on bringing these people back. If we're laying people off and we have no plans of bringing them back, why not get rid of some office space as well? Roku's cutting 200 jobs. The EV maker Lucid is laying off 1,300 employees. A company by the name of Cover My Meds is laying off hundreds. An exact number wasn't given, but it's just reporting they're laying off hundreds. Microsoft is laying off another 2,700. More layoffs are likely coming for Salesforce, who did a big round of layoffs a couple months back. Shift is laying off 30% of their company. Blue Nile is laying off 119. And then a company by the name of AI, the letter A and then the word I, is laying off 46. Here's the Afroman story. This is kind of a funny story. Check out a YouTube video. Afroman has a YouTube video called "Will You Help Me Fix My Door?" So I think this happened about a year ago. But Afroman's house was raided. Now the search warrant said they were raiding his house, looking for like thousands of pounds of marijuana and kidnapping victims. Kind of odd. And this was actually in Ohio. I was kind of surprised by that. I always thought Afroman was from California. He seemed like a Cali guy to me. I know he is from California, but it just surprised me he was living in Ohio. Anyhow, Afroman's house was raided. He wound up making a very, very funny music video. If you guys know Afroman, he's a rapper, but his songs are very funny. He's got a great sense of humor. He made a song in a music video called "Will You Help Me Fix My Door?" And in the song he talks about, "Will you help me fix my door? Will you help me fix my fence?" And he kind of, and the video playing on the music video is actually his home surveillance footage of the police raiding his home, knocking down his gate, kicking in his door. And again, keep in mind, they're looking for thousands of pounds of marijuana and kidnapping victims. And so in the song, he says things like, do you think there's kidnapping victims in my suit pockets? Because the police are going through his suit pockets. He says, do you think there's 1,000 pounds of marijuana in my CDs? They're going through his book of CDs. During one piece of the video, it appears that a police officer is stealing money and putting it into his flak jacket or his vest. And then at one point, the police cut off his home surveillance cameras. Why would you cut off the man's home surveillance cameras unless you're doing something in his home that you shouldn't be doing? Anyhow, Afroman wound up using this footage in his music video, which, again, it's his own home surveillance footage of his own home. Now, you have 7 Adams County sheriffs who are suing Afroman for, quote-unquote, invading their privacy. Isn't it funny how these police officers break into another man's home, rifle through his things, and yet somehow their privacy has been invaded? It's absolutely hilarious. And again, this raid actually happened, I think, a year ago or maybe even over a year ago. But the recent story is that these Adams County sheriffs are suing Afroman for invading their privacy. Let's see, how are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing fine on time. So let's talk a little bit about Shopify. Years ago, a lot of people didn't want to rent or lease their e-commerce platform. People wanted to own and control their e-commerce platform. Selling on platforms like eBay and Amazon and Walmart are great, but one of the downsides is you have to play it by their rules because it's their platform. So if they insist that you offer 60-day returns or 6-month returns, you have to offer 6-month or 60-day returns. If they want to force a return for a customer, they can do that. You have to play by their rules. They can tell you what items you can list and can't list. And that's why a lot of people would prefer having their own website, their own e-commerce site that they own and control. Well, in the past, you would have like a WordPress site where you hosted the site. You used an open source platform like WordPress and WooCommerce or Magento, and pretty much you had full control over your website. Well, over the past 5 years, 10 years, the model has kind of changed to where a lot of people are using hosted platforms like Shopify obviously being the biggest one, Volusion, Squarespace, big commerce platforms like this. Now, the fear was always that, if Shopify wanted to shut down your business, they could shut down your business. If Shopify wanted to tell you you couldn't sell certain products, in theory, they could do that. Now, they had never really done that. A couple years back, Shopify shut down Donald Trump's store, and that was kind of a big deal. Whether you like Trump or hate Trump, the idea that Shopify can shut down your store for things completely unrelated to your store is kind of crazy. Shopify hasn't done this a lot. There was another t-shirt store that around the time of like January 6th and kind of Trump going out of office was making offensive t-shirts, and Shopify had shut them down. But Shopify really hasn't done much of this. Now, in the past, the only reason Shopify might shut down your store is like, what is it, a DMCA or DCMA, whatever it's called, takedown. If you're stealing content from somebody else, if you're infringing on somebody else's patent or trademark, Shopify would take you down. And really, like even Google, web hosts, everybody would do this if you were doing things like that or breaking the law. But there are people right now who are selling perfectly legal items who are either having their Shopify stores taken down completely or who Shopify is going into their stores and deleting listings and telling them, if you relist this product, we're going to shut down your store. Again, perfectly legal products. And just to give you an example how this is different from in the past, remember back when hoverboards were popular back in 2016, 2017, Shopify payments wouldn't let people sell hoverboards because they viewed them as high risk. There was a lot of credit card fraud because it was a high ticket item that would be easy to resell if somebody had a stolen credit card. There were a lot of chargebacks, and also the boards were catching on fire. So a lot of the payment processors, and specifically Stripe, who is essentially Shopify Payments, said you can't use Shopify Payments to sell hoverboards, but if you went and got your own processor through Authorize.net, you could sell hoverboards. So in the past, the only headaches you'd really get was with payment processing, but Shopify at the end of the day is just a website builder, and they didn't really get involved in determining what you could or couldn't sell. Well, all of that is changing. This is happening across a couple different industries, and there are certain industries that are maybe, I don't even want to say gray area, but maybe considered more high risk. Think things like CBD or Kratom, or even somebody who's selling like, gun accessories, like, whether it be like speed loaders, sites, green dot sites, red dot sites, things like that. Shopify is shutting down people's stores and or taking products off people's sites. And this is even if they're not using Shopify payments. This is really scary, and this has always been one of the dangers of using a hosted platform or relying on a company. And some of my friends, as well as some companies that I know and work with, they're going to have to wind up moving off of Shopify. They've been on Shopify, some of these people, for almost a decade. When you move to another website or another platform, no matter how well you do the move, you're always going to lose some placement in search engines. So your Google rankings are going to suffer. It's a huge headache. It's going to cost thousands, if not tens, or potentially even hundreds of thousands in development fees. And there's definitely going to be some headaches and some growing pains and some lost sales, which potentially could mount to the tens, if not hundreds, of thousands of dollars. So this is a huge headache, and this has always been a risk with Shopify, but it seems like it's finally starting to happen. It's kind of weird as the economy's heading into a downturn, as Shopify is already going to be losing clients. They want to alienate themselves from even more people. I can't really go into too many more specifics, but be wary. If you're selling dress socks, you're probably fine on Shopify. But if you're selling anything that may be offensive or risky or questionable, definitely don't set up your business on Shopify. Next story, we talked about a Wall Street Journal article. People are complaining about air travel way more than usual. People are upset about delayed flights, cancellations, missed connections, and lost baggage. And I've done a fair bit of traveling this past year, and I've experienced the same thing. One of my most annoying things, a buddy asked me to pick him up from Midway Airport. He was coming back from California. I go to pick him up. His flight's landed at like 11:45. His flight winds up showing up on time, but his baggage just was not coming out. So 11:45 turns into 12:45, 12:45 turns into 1:30. I call him, I'm like, dude, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, dude, the baggage isn't coming out. I'm like, and I had an early meeting the next day. I'm like, dude, I got to be up in like 4 hours. It wound up taking about 3 hours for his baggage to finally come out before he came out to my car. Just a couple weeks ago, I flew down to Miami, rented a car, and drove down to Key West. I had a 5 a.m. flight. The whole plan was to get into Miami early, rent a car, and then it's a fairly long drive down to Key West from Miami. So me and my girlfriend were going to kind of have a leisurely road trip and stop at some museums and restaurants and bars along the way down. I wake up at, I don't know, 3 in the morning. 5 minutes after I wake up, I get a text from Southwest. Your flight's been canceled. Not delayed, your flight's been canceled. So now I'm scrambling to find another flight, ideally one without connections, because I don't trust that connections are going to go through, or that I'm going to be able to make my connection and carry on. Wind up finding a nonstop. Anyhow, long story short, I don't wind up getting into Miami till about 5 o'clock that night. By the time I get my rental car and get on the road, it's almost dark. So this beautiful road trip and drive to Key West, where I was planning on stopping along the way, turned into just a long drive in the dark. And I kind of talked about at the beginning of this video, I was talking about trying to head down to Destin, Florida in a couple weeks. My girlfriend's been working hard, wanted to have a little relaxing couple days on the beach, but there are no nonstop flights, and that immediately scratched that destination off of one of the places we could go, because I don't trust that my flight's going to take off on time and arrive in time to where I could actually make a connecting flight. But according to the article, we haven't seen this many flight cancellations since 2001. And think about it, 2001 was 9/11. And, again, people have all types of complaints. I guess in addition to the airlines being short-staffed, the FAA is actually short-staffed, and JetBlue is having to drastically cut the amount of flights they have going to New York because there just aren't enough air traffic controllers to kind of handle all of those flights. So that's kind of crazy. Next story, the Arizona press secretary resigns after posting an image of a woman with 2 pistols from some movie. I forget what the movie was. And she said, "This is us when we see transphobes." So on the heels of the Nashville shooting, where a woman to man trans person wound up shooting and killing a bunch of 9-year-olds as well as a bunch of school staff, the Arizona press secretary thought it would be a good idea to essentially either mock the violence, or even worse, it seems, call for violence against people who don't support the trans movement. Kind of crazy. This story is absolutely nuts. There are a lot of people out there, including some media outlets, who seem to be more concerned with not dead naming the person who committed this mass murder than they are about the kids who were murdered. And we're starting to see on like Twitter and Reddit and platforms like that, there's a significant portion of the trans community who is basically treating this person as a martyr, saying that they were justified in doing this because they were treated poorly by this Catholic school and by their Christian family. I see people on Twitter and Reddit saying, slam Christ babies into garbage cans and kill anti-trans people. I mean, the amount of divisiveness and divide in the country is just absolutely insane, and that story just keeps getting more nuts and more nuts. This is just kind of an observation I have. So do you guys ever get those penny mailers in the mail that they normally have coupons for local pizza shops, Mexican restaurants, maybe for massage places, Massage Envy, and then you'll see a lot for like heating and air people, discounts on oil changes, things like that. So, I get these penny mailers a couple times in the month. I got all these different flyers. Sometimes it comes in the form of a magazine. But traditionally, this would be a lot of discretionary services or kind of non-essential services. Things like massages, maybe an arcade, get a 3-season room put on your house. And you'd also have like the oil change places and the HVAC places. I got a penny mailer in the mail yesterday, and I was looking to see if there's any like landscaping deals in there. I maybe want to get my lawn aerated here in a couple weeks. A couple other services that I'm always kind of looking for. And I noticed the penny mailer, all the non-essential services are no longer in the penny mailer. So what do I mean by that? Things like massage services. There's normally a couple Mexican restaurants. They weren't in there. Pizza places weren't in there. Everything that was in there was essential services. So it was stuffed with different car repair and oil change places, HVAC stuff, but every single flyer, and probably 30 different flyers or 30 different mailers, every single one was for an essential service. There was not one flyer in there that was for something, quote unquote, fun or non-essential, like a massage or a restaurant. And what that tells me is, people aren't spending money on non-essential services. People are saving money, and the only thing people are willing to spend money on are things that they have to spend money on. Just an observation, but if you guys have seen anything like that in your area, drop a comment down and let me know. The narrative has been inflation is coming down, but inflation is not going anywhere. The Fed has expanded their balance sheet $500 billion in the past 2 weeks. That by definition is inflationary. The banking system is not safe or sound. This all could be by design to roll out a central bank digital currency. Who had a good video about this? I think the Uneducated Economist had a good video about this yesterday. And I don't know if this is the Economic Ninja. You know what? There's a couple interesting videos that I will try to remember to link down in the description box below, because I just don't have the time to go into that, and I think they do a better job of explaining it than I could. Market Insider article, housing prices are still very high, so hold off on buying. The economy will continue to struggle, according to Yale economist Robert Shiller. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that homes are overpriced and the economy is headed down the toilet. But nonetheless, if you don't trust yourself or don't trust what you see with your own eyes, Yale economist Robert Shiller is saying the same thing. He says the economy is going to continue to struggle for at least the next 6 months. Personally, I believe the economy is probably going to struggle for the next couple of years, and that's if the economy even comes back. I only got a couple minutes, so I don't want to get too into this. But if you look at what's happening right now, the U.S. is a bully with the dollar and pretty much the world economy. We decided to surround Russia by NATO, then try to put sanctions on Russia, and the rest of the world sees that we're weaponizing the dollar and that we're kind of abusing our power. So we recently had Indonesia say that they're getting off of Visa and MasterCard. They're going to stop using Visa and MasterCard because they're scared if they piss off the U.S. down the road, we may cut them off from Visa or MasterCard or cause problems for their country. And so what we've essentially accomplished with all this nonsense in Ukraine is we've brought Russia and China to world superpowers together. We've made them have an even closer alliance, and we've also kind of divided up the world to where a lot of the BRICS nations are going to wind up siding with Russia and China. I think it was Saudi Arabia and a number of other countries said that they're going to trade in Chinese yuan instead of the US dollar. The petrodollar is no longer going to be a thing. The dollar is no longer going to be the world reserve currency, which means that we can't print all this money out of thin air, which is something we've been doing pretty much since the beginning of time. And it seems like there's going to be a strong alliance formed between Russia, China, and the BRICS nations. So what is that? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And we're going to be kind of left out in the cold. I'd love for you guys to drop some comments because I haven't been following this too closely. But Zero Hedge had an article, the Restrict Act is Orwellian censorship disguised as an anti-TikTok legislation. This could potentially criminalize the use of VPNs. And the Restrict Act was introduced by Senators Mark Warren, a Democrat from Virginia, and Tom Thune, a Republican from South Dakota. When do you see Republicans and Democrats come together to do anything unless it is to take our freedoms, right? Like they can't come together to forgive student loans the proper way as opposed to doing it through executive order, but they can come together to clamp down on your freedoms, and that's exactly what is happening. So everybody should oppose this Restrict Act. If you guys want to drop some comments and kind of enlighten us a little bit more about the Restrict Act, would love to hear that. And then last story of the day, I'm really short on time here, so we'll kind of blow through this. California will be introducing a tax on home sales over $5 million. That's going to be 4%, and over 10 million home sales are going to be taxed at 5%. Now, a lot of people may say, "Oh, you got $5 or $10 million. You're part of the 1%. You're part of the elite. Screw you." And if you feel that way, cool. The problem is this is going to force wealthy people out of California. You're already seeing people rush to sell their homes ahead of this act going into place. And also, the government oftentimes introduces things as going after the rich, but eventually it trickles down to the middle class and even the poor. Remember when Biden was going to go after the billionaires and make sure that they paid their fair share? What did that wind up looking like? Well, what that wound up looking like is if you use services like PayPal or Venmo or Cash App, and you transact more than $600 in a year, a 1099 is going to be filed on you, and you're going to have to pay taxes on it. So Biden's idea of going after the billionaires is making sure that you pay taxes on the $600 that you get through Venmo or PayPal. So this California Act is almost certainly going to trickle down lower. Maybe next it's 3 million, and it's 2 million, and it's 1 million. And California is so expensive that, granted, $1 million is a lot of money, but in California, $1 million isn't some giant McMansion. $1 million in California, in most parts of California, or at least many parts of California, is a fairly modest home. So that's kind of crazy as well. I actually got to get running here. I'm very, very short on time. But that's today's video. If you guys enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button down below and ring the bell. And as always, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and opinions on anything and everything we discussed in today's video. So drop those down below as well. Be sure to check out the sponsor of today's video, Refersion, link in the description box below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Later. Peace.